Firstly, thank you everyone. Thank you for taking out time for today. We also have Meenal who leads our South business at MiQ. So, our marketing team have planned in a way that we are supposed to do a presentation and go with it, but I choose to ditch that part. The reason being is we want to make it much more casual and free of conversation. It's not like one asking question, and because it's a round table, so everyone can ask each other in terms of, because we all are focused with different brands and etc. So it's not like one moderator working with other panelists. No, we are all open to have a discussion. We want to keep the overall flow, free flow of conversation. That is the whole objective. And because in the way we put it, as MIQ's position is how we solve a cluttered space. So similar manner, we focus on building open conversation here. I'll leave it to Meenal to start the conversation so that we can take it from there.
Sure. Thanks, Varun. So, as Varun already told, what we are focusing today is personalization. I'm sure all of you, when you plan your campaigns, you give a lot of importance to personalization. And it can be done in different ways, right? One is that personalization can be targeting the right set of people and then retargeting them. Or it can be, you are taking some external factors into account, certain thing, and then you are showing them, suppose it's raining outside, you're showing, okay, it's raining, why don't you use this product of ours? So it can be done in different ways. So our first question would be, while planning a campaign, how important is personalization for you and what does it mean? So I would leave anybody to start with and then.
So, frankly, I would say that personalization it's kind of overkill. We've been talking about it since quite some time, and all brand believes that they are doing personalization to extent, but consumer don't agree. So 76% of the 76% of the consumer, they don't agree that they are getting the personalized communication. So here, what it's happening is that everyone, all the brands, or even the marketers like us, we believe that it has to be in certain way. So as you rightly said, running outside will give them. It is a relevance, but we have to look at all the data in our we have got we need to ensure that we are reaching out to right audience, right time, at right place. All three matches. Then only it is called as a proper personalization. That's when we will be able to engage. We have got a lot of tools to measure, right? We get viewability to understand if the audience are actually seen the ad, and eye tracking mechanism which is coming up very strongly. All these things are coming in. So why do we do that? To ensure that our audience are engaged. So this personalization will ensure that if imagine we are talking to you. So be it as small as Alexa. I'll take an example of Alexa. So it is dominant. The moment you trigger that word, it actually it triggers. It's human mind also connects that the same way. So the moment you relate to it, the moment you take their name or have a touch point in which they are actually looking for, you'll be able to engage them. So this actually is one of the key when we go in the future. So it's not just at the media, it should actually get into the nurture program as well. So it shouldn't just end at you're reaching them, you're giving the touch point. You should actually ensure that that goes through even after the sales has happened, how you are going to engage with them. So all these things we'll have to consider when you talk about personalization. Personalization, it's not just on the media, it has to be holistic. That's my
Great.
theory.
Thanks, Anil. I think what Anil is saying, personalization is important, but what happens after that, after showing the message at the right time, is very, very important. And I kind of agree with him, because otherwise, the whole whatever efforts you have put in doing the personalization gets lost. So that I agree, and thank you so much. Anybody else to add something to that?
Hello, am I audible?
Yeah.
Can I just okay, I'm not getting into the technology part of it or advertising part of it. Let me just talk as a consumer here.
Sorry, before that, if you can just tell what you do and where you come from.
So
Just help to give a context.
So I run an agency. It's called Together.
Okay.
We are 13 months old. We are ex-industry folks who have come from primarily the Dentsu ecosystem. We are now the youngest independent agency to win a CAN. We are
It's a digital marketing agency.
we are a full stack agency.
Okay.
We do creative, media, online, offline, the entire thing.
Sure.
So yeah, so that's the little bit about us. So because, and again, the background for me personally is I have been in the media space for quite some time. I started my career with Interactive Avenues, then I moved to Isobar, then I had an audit firm, then I moved back to Isobar. So I have seen the entire journey of digital for about 12 years, and now I want to be a consumer, right? Because it's scary for me. So personalization works, but personalization works if it's a known brand. So my point is the first point of interaction should never be personalized. It's scary. The second point, third point, when the brand is familiar, you personalize it whichever way you want. You can personalize it with media, you can personalize it with technology, you can personalize it with custom data, whatever you want, but don't personalize the very first interaction because that's counterproductive. That's one. Also, I strongly believe that today, for brands to really build brands or businesses to build brands, in an aspiring country like us, any brand that you buy is an aspirational brand. You always try to actually buy the next thing which I can afford. So the old neighbors envy, owner's pride kind of a thing still is very relevant. So it can be a Kandandevan tea to a Tata tea purchase, or it can be a car purchase, bike purchase, whatever it is. Now, when it comes to too much of personalization, no, only it's a one-to-one communication. The neighbor never sees that product. So then there is never a neighbor's pride for which I am buying or upgrading myself. So that's something which we should really focus on as well. So first interaction, don't personalize. Third, fourth, fifth personalization. When you know a little bit more about the consumer, start personalizing. It works much better. That's my only.
Yeah.
So actually, so on that front, folks in BFSI, where consumer comes and tries a new product, and right then and there people start giving their first party data, and there are of course multiple integrations from which you can find out alternate data about the same consumer. And if you can deliver a personalized experience from the first go itself, of course after a certain interaction, that's worked very well for us. So I'm from Frio. It helps people pay, save, borrow, insure, invest. It's a B2C brand for consumers. But that's worked very well because a lot of my segment, my consumers, they're coming from different mindsets. One is a borrowing mentality, another one is a saving mentality, another one is an investing mentality, growth mentality. So how do we as marketers balance these in a single app journey when I don't have a way to communicate in a human manner to that consumer? That's where it really does wonders. And we have done a lot of testing. So when we try and send a communication with personalization, without personalization, the impacts are, it's a substantial impacts of uplifts we have seen when we use personalization.
So I'll just sum it up a little bit. I'll just say for one thing is for sure, both Rahul and Itarth have said the same thing, that personalization should be at the retargeting level, not at the first level, right? So that is for sure. And
I
then
think
yeah.
one other aspect sir talked about is for a new brand. I think personalization generally don't help a lot. Primarily because personalization drives loyalty per se. Why is it so? Reason being, a customer, when it get into your funnel, he try out the product. Then once he start trying your product again and again. Once you have that understanding of his behavior, his purchases, then he likes to have that assistance, hand holding in any media. It can be an offline and online, that the platform knows me, and basis that it's giving me personalized solutions. Even from a marketing perspective, what talking about from a retargeting, those behavior has been built in. It's very sophisticated, and now if any new offering is coming, I want to give that offering to the right audience for which it is relevant. Otherwise, digital is like a pool of ads where you keep on seeing multiple ads. But if the platform has known you, enough and give you very targeted and very right pitch or product or product communication, then a customer would also like that, and it drives loyalty, a lot of repeat purchases. So for a new brand, it may not act really beneficial, but for a brand which has been in the business for almost as in or has acquired a customer who's been coming again and again, personalization is, I think, the single biggest lever to drive loyalty.
I'll just add to what he rightly said, but completely different from a different industry. Like right outside our office, there's a Starbucks outlet. Over a span of 2 weeks, those guys know what day at what time I like to have a coffee with almond milk with hazelnut syrup, on what days I like my dessert, on what time I like my sandwiches. Like Rahul rightly mentioned, if that had done to me at the first instance, it would have probably been fever. Like, you don't need to know this, right? But as a repeat, I'm glad by the time I go there, he or she knows what I want. And then my exit is quick. And maybe that's where I would like to see it, at least evolve better. Maybe at the step one, it's kind of creepy because you don't need to know too much about me without a first conversation. Right? But at a retention level, like I remember this as well, right? I think MRF did it quite well. They knew that after, in a year, an average car drives X number of kilometers on the road. So after 20,000 kilometers, if I'm not wrong, you're supposed to change your tires. So they started sending me monsoon driving tips. They started sending me XYZ, and then they knew exactly when I need to go check a puncture test as well. It helps when you genuinely need it. And if it seems pushy, I might start, pushing back from it.
Or you also to add to what Meenal said, the rain advertising.
Yeah.
If Chai Point has a communication of chai pakoda when it rains, it works,
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Fun.
right?
Yeah.
But on the other hand, you try to sell a raincoat, you try to sell a shoe, you try to sell something else. It does not work because the time to purchase, the context is there, but the time to purchase and the immediacy is not there for anything else. Chai pakoda, yes.
Also, I just feel that personalization at scale is a tough nut to crack for any brand to operate at that scale. I just feel that it's more contextualization versus personalization. I think there is where brands get confused when they say they are personalizing, but actually they are contextualizing at scale when they operate. So I think there's a gap there as well from an understanding point of view.
I think a long time back, Adobe used to sell their entire service suite, right? That is personalization at scale because it's got a DSP, it's got a DMP, it's got website analytics, it's got customer data, it's got everything. Now then it's easier to do personalization at scale, but most of the time, as you rightly said, it's contextualization which is happening.
Yeah.
The scariest experience I still remember for a person who's been fighting weight loss issues for the longest time in his life. I would be somewhere coming down from the 4th floor of a cult, getting coaxed in to walk down the stairs. At the 3rd floor, there will be an absolute barbecue. By the time I go to 2nd floor, I'll get a push message from them. And I'm like, don't do this. Okay? I can't resist. But I still try to figure how they do that. But I wouldn't say that works, but that at least it's kind of pushing me away from what I wanted to do. Like you rightly said, there are so many places, but just I think maybe certain mediums need to be avoided.
So there's a thin line difference.
I'll give a different take because everyone's saying about that if you're starting as a brand, it's difficult. But if you start as a brand and if you are able to add personalization I think your customer retention goes very high. There are many startup brands. I still remember in the start I bought their products. They have sent a very small note while the product I have received. If you really like my product, please give me a thumbs up. And there is a founder's sign into this. Swiggy, everyone has done it. I still remember I purchased a yoga bar full kit and there was a very nice note by Suhasini. And whenever I meet Suhasini, it still reminds her that note has kept me buying yoga bar. Now it's a big brand today, but those things has actually attached me to those brands. Then your loyalty shifts immediately. I'll take an example of biggest brand. Titan is sitting here. Tanishq still does good amount of loyalty with their codes. If you're a high net worth consumers, they call you, they pamper you. I think there a lot of personalization still happens if the brand becomes big also. If you keep to those things in a right manner, I think you still have that personalization is winning.
So personalization, okay, then let's also relook at the question. Personalization from a technology point of view, media point of view, or the actual personalization where the example that you gave, I still get that message from Kabali Biryani when I order the chicken. That's still founders. Now, those are nice touches,
Yeah.
right? It's a very personal touch. But is that personalization of scale is a different question because when, like Varun said about the Starbucks doing that in the very first go, it's a little creepy, especially for the urban consumers who are now bombarded with so many privacy messages. This, that, we are. Then you have the UPI also, which is saying ki data mat do types, right? So there is a fine line of targeting ads from a personalized manner,
Customization and
then
privacy.
your loyalty CRM-led personalization, which actually adds the higher retention.
Yes.
Giving another aspect, because I was just reading through the topic, which is programmatic. I think you remember during our childhood when we all used to go to a Kirana store. The Kirana store guy will know that what you want to purchase, what you have been purchasing in past, and give you a very right recommendation. Like for example, if you can afford a Parle G, he will not try to sell you a Bourbon, right? Now, one of the biggest, like, because in last few years, a lot of brands are now trying to drive profitability. It becomes really, really important for them to start upselling and increase their basket mix. And that basket mix should be very, I'll say, personalized. If I'm purchasing a T-shirt which comes at 1,000 rupees, you can't pitch me a brand which is 9,000 plus for a jeans. And over there, I think programmatic plays a big role, which a lot of these big e-com companies have already mastered and championed, which is Amazon or Flipkart. So depending on whenever there is a big billion sale or sort of those things, I see a very personalized, like lower funnel ad depending on the purchases that I have done on Flipkart or Amazon. And with the advent of, I think, AI, where rather than you building those segments, there are AI solutions that are being built which can help you like create recommendation engine around that okay, depending on the last purchases that this person has buy, to drive upsell or cross sell, this is the recommendation creative that you should push to customers. I think that from an efficiency perspective, from a conversion perspective, is what a lot of companies are trying to do, starting from CRM because it's free, but even a lot of such a lot of those DSPs are now started giving such capabilities. So I think that's the future of personalization, especially for brands who are trying to add multiple categories, multiple products in their mix, which has adjacency, which is recommendation driven, but are not from the same category.
I agree with that actually. I have an excuse. Sorry that I had to step out, but I have an excuse why I went out because it said only the brightest minds could stay in the room. So that's my reason for going out and coming back in. The view that we have, and I'll try and respond to what you said in a few ways. One is, I think, for a long time, the goal for every marketer is to have the same intel that the corner shop kirana wala will have and predict it. So a problem with programmatic a lot of the time is that after you buy, if you look for a pair of shoes after you've bought it, you get adverts for shoes and all of that, and it's not, it's in the past instead of forward looking. Creating lookalikes, getting recommendations, all that is, like you do it, other people do it as well. But I think the way the industry is headed, I don't know how long it'll take, but the moment you have more of a partnership between advertisers and agencies and supply side providers, that's when you get the best results. So even as MiQ, we see you get the best results when clients open up pixels on their website, or if there's any first party data. We've run probably 100 performance campaigns for 100 clients or 78 clients. 2 have been successful where we've got repeats. And you might say performance doesn't work, but the other way of looking at it is where the 2 that work, there's a lot of access to client first information, sign whatever NDAs and all that we have to do. That's when it works. But I think as a if we're able to bring from a tech point of view CRM plus the supply side intel that companies can provide now, it'll make a difference. The elephant in the room is trust, because no one, the question is transparency. What's your cost price? What are you selling at? How much? All of that. So I think where we're successful is, or where we're able to help clients with outcomes, is where we get past that.
Yeah, that is the one thing everyone are agreeing on, right? As Rahul said that you shouldn't start from the first. Having the first party data, that means you have already started somewhere. So doing the personalization for the first party data always works better. And as I was mentioning, it shouldn't stop only at the media. It should actually go beyond. So take an example of Netflix. So Netflix has got built-in engine, artificial intelligence engine, where it keeps suggesting what you want, what you should be watching next. So imagine getting that outside your media. So programmatic has evolved like anything. I still remember we used to call it RTB back in 2008 or 9. So we were still trying to figure out how do we do the bid strategy and all. Where you have taken out all the human element in it, and it has gotten into the stage where the artificial intelligence takes up most of it. Even if you want to create a cohort, there's an artificial intelligence engine for you to run, and if you want to create a customized messaging, there's AI driven to it. So leverage all this technology which is there at your disposal. He was talking about Adobe Suite. So that the multiple small startups which have come up and which will help you to build that your website. If not, if you don't have a website, build that a nurture program, post that. So there are two sets of audience, advertiser we have, B2B and B2C. B2C, while it's mainly for the consumer, where we look at protecting ourselves, we are we are always worry about what message is being where my data is being used and stuff like that. When it comes to B2B, it is multifold, but at the same time, the audience are limited and they want it to be as personalized as possible. So how do we ensure that we get to them without actually invading their privacy? That becomes the key. So you have got everything, that doesn't mean that it should use everything.
That's exactly the point. I mean,
One,
for example,
one other point what Manish was talking about. I think the future of programmatic would lie in how the CRM supply side inputs or triggers can be fed into the DMPs. I think the past DMPs has been very static.
Yeah.
And all those DMPs that has been built, apart from DV360, where they introduce floodlights to actually use them to optimize their lower funnel. I think a lot of DMPs that will be built over the course of next 4-5 years would not be static, but very dynamic. Dynamic in terms of you may not need to have a segment built very statically. It will automatically learn. It will automatically tell you that okay, this customer has reached to this particular level. For example, there is a guy called Russell from US. He's considered as one of the biggest growth marketer across the world. What he has said is a customer, when he gets into a brand, depending on what cycle he is, you can pitch different things. Like for example, if you go to a salon, the first time you go to a salon, if he'll say, sir, आप कोई महंगा सा massage करा लो, it's not there because the trust and all those things has not been built. But if he would have done, he has crossed that particular level, he has done a purchase 5 to 6 times, he has done a hair massage, or then you can make him upset. So I think a lot of programmatic DMPs from being pure static need to be evolved to become more dynamic, with a lot of information coming from supply side and CRM side. And now this customer has automatically has become classified to this particular cohort, and now you start pushing.
So,
That's a very
I mean, talking about the salon, it took me 10 years to actually get my first massage from the same barber. But that is the Indian consumer.
Yeah.
We don't trust. I mean, it takes a long time to trust, right?
Yeah.
And the same thing, again, it's a question from my end. Anyone can answer because I have been trying to figure this out for a very long time. First party data is not there with anybody other than the customer, the clients. He just mentioned that when the first party data comes or when the DMP becomes dynamic with first party data, for which I don't know what the timeline is, right? Now, if I were to take a step back, Indians, so if you are saying, औका तो इतना ही है, but aspiration इतना है. So from a data consumption pattern, from the places that I go also, all the data signals that we currently have about that customer might be for this, whereas the actual capability or affordability is here. So even when we are doing programmatic or any sort of contextual programmatic personalization targeting, how do we solve for this? Okay. I mean, it's a question which has been.
I also think that I think when it comes to personalization, we should segment it in two different areas, and they should feed into each other. Is my view on that. One is that you personalize to sell, which is largely advertising broadly put together. One is that you personalize to service, which actually happens mostly after the sell is being done. I think a lot of focus has gone into the first part, and perhaps not much has been done on the second part. But as you invest more on the second part, I think a lot of other flywheel effect comes into the picture, which is recommendation, which is word of mouth, which is repeatability from the same consumer. Personalization is also, as she very rightly put, is contextual. It needs to be more contextual than personal. Even if you are able to be contextual to me, I think as a brand you have done your bit. You don't need to know what am I eating, what I'm getting up, what am I doing here, where am I traveling. As far as you're contextual, you're solving something for me. You're servicing first in the first place for me. I think my trust is established, and then I'm willing to at least listen to you. Okay, what else you have to say? I think what a lot of brands end up doing as a mistake is that, okay, I have all the data points, I have all the signals, let me target this guy and, let him not sleep in peace. And, I start bombarding that person. But I have not serviced that person in the first place. And coming to the example of salon, like I love how Enrich operates. It's my personal favorite to go to. They only ask me two questions. What is the service that you need? What is the who's the stylist that you want? And they said your appointment is with this. So I don't need to ask that you give me this guy's appointment. They say that he is available at this time. Would you like to stick to him, or do I give you another slot? That much is enough for me, and it's coming from a service first angle and not from a selling first angle. Then if that guy upsells me something XYZ, it is still understandable and also perhaps much more palatable, versus if they were to first reach out to me saying that I have this offer, that offer, or you were here and you were there, or you have just traveled and come back, why would you like to come for a massage, etc., etc. I think that's where we should also demarcate a bit as a brand.
Yeah, I agree. I completely get on that front. Especially the acquisition and retention part of it is where, because anywhere where you need to have repeatability or retention is where you can go next mile of personalization.
So I think retention is also is again selling. I'm not coming from a selling mindset.
No, I'm talking about.
I'm coming from a servicing mindset.
Yeah, that, one is servicing. I got that. Second thing is I'm talking about Hitat also, which mentioning about, or Rahul mentioning about, you're not going the first mile, but in the once there is already an engagement which is happening, and then you're following up with a personalization, customers still wouldn't mind. But as we talk about Netflix, where you are customizing there, right, and I mean, as a user perspective, everyone wants customization. But
I don't think so. I don't agree. I think in today's time and age, there is overdose of personalization which is happening. And you are being chased everywhere with a whole lot of personalization which is happening. Especially I can't open my Insta, in front of others, because if they see this thing, I know I would be judged for whatever I've seen in past. So it's going the other way around actually.
I agree. No, that's what I was coming to. In fact,
I think what is missing is, in any which ways with AI, it has become a base norm. Like with everything, it's become a base norm of personalization. What is required at the next level is, with that personalization, what is the human intervention you are doing to me at a humane level, I think that's where the winning combination would be, and that's where people don't even travel that distance and start coming off before that.
Yeah. So I completely agree. That's what I was coming to, especially what Varun and Rahul mentioned in terms of there is a sync and there is privacy standpoint, right? Like for example, when you talk about weather, when you talk about area or geographical location in terms of targeting, you say that okay, in Bangalore it is raining right now. Have a what do you say? Order a chai pakoda from Chai Point or anything of that sort, or buy a check your tire life or anything of that sort. It's a customization. I mean, in terms of custom engagement. But when you enter an airport, you're getting a message stating that you just entered the airport. Would you want to look at that? Becomes big, though it is similar, but the communication also matters there. So how to look at your whatever data points is available. One is keeping that first party data. Again, there are challenges which we going on right
No
now.
one's answered this question
Yeah,
yet.
yeah.
There's no answer.
No, serious.
Diversion.
Yeah, that's why you put in a point that we'll come back onto that particular point. But in terms of not going to that customization level, that is to the not at user level, but at a broader level in terms of sync, we see a higher, as Hitat mentioned, with the time you do that in a broader level kind of thing, especially for us, we seen that engagement. So I want to put in an example with Luminous. Luminous is a brand which focus on batteries, I mean inverter, and the moment of truth for them is when there is a power disruption happening. Right? Now, how do you identify the power disruption? Technically, it's been a black box area, right? So that's where we created a scroller, we created a identifier in terms of areas where there is a power disruption, there are scheduled and unscheduled perspective. And we seen that the time when we have user face a power disruption, so we activated the campaign just half an hour post when they face a challenge, stating that you just faced a power disruption. Why can't you avoid that by buying an inverter? Okay, and that personalization not at a user level, but a broader level in terms of custom communication, which is like regional language, depending, because most of the power disruption is tier 2, tier 3 cities. And regional language vernacular makes a lot of difference there. Plus your nearest dealer address, closest dealer address, right? We've seen there's almost 4x higher engagement when we do that. And it is not reaching to that existing audience. The whole objective is to sell to the newer audience. So customization, yes, in terms of broader, not at a user level, but at a broader level, we have seen a big uplift in that case. Again, identifying the moment of truth. We worked with Airtel for that matter. We won an award for how we have identified areas where there is a network disruption on Airtel fiber, right? How we're looking at second, as a brand, when we discussed, she was mentioning that she don't see a user converting from a competition brand to Airtel, but there are new user acquisitions highest for broadband. Okay, so what we did is we can identify static IP and mobile IP, right? On Country TV, we identified users who are consuming content from a mobile IP. That is, people who are using hotspot. So there is a potential that he or she is consuming a lot of content on a larger screen, but not having a broadband at home, right? So then we created a custom communication to that user, seeing, have a better engagement with your uninterrupted network.
I think coming to your first party data question, I really don't see that as a challenge because any which ways, whatever the data is shared in a hashed form. So I'm not sure why are you stating that as a...
No, but that is to larger clientele, yes, we still see that case-to-case basis.
No, you're saying you get even getting a hashed data is a challenge for you?
Yeah.
Like I'll tell you myself. We don't share any data even in hashed formats. We are very, very particular, and all my partners would kind of say that we don't share too much data. So
I think there are two parts to that. One is
it is also dependent on company's culture.
No, it's I think also dependent on category to category.
Category to category,
Telecoms
which
are too sensitive.
category, yeah. So
I think it's true in most of the cases. One of my clients, so they say that like in hash data, if I share it with them, so even though it is it's identifiable in media, right? They
Through
claim
ad
that like
IDs
they claim that like my data is being used. So like similar the competitor can come and target them. They can go to MiQ and ask them to target. That kind of trust level is not there. So that is one of the challenge what we are facing.
There are also clients who give you the entire data. So that's the
Yeah.
other story.
there are both sides of the coin, I think.
I'll tell you a very funny example for one of the brand that I worked before. So this guy was actually going to a different city without telling his wife. and what happened, uh, because he did some purchase in that particular city online. Uh, he was getting a lot of personalized content and communication, which was relevant to that city, maybe some brand or language. And sometimes what happens, like a lot of brands start bombarding that you will open it anywhere, uh, you will find all those content. So it creates a lot of issue in that case that
Which city and what content?
How did you manage your wife then?
I'll not divulge, but see, so the point is, it gives a cue to the person that, oh, he was not, how he's getting into that remarketing funnel, because and I think that's on a lighter, that was on a lighter note, but one is the safety and the second is security. Security is already we have built in, but are those first party data can be used for safer reason is something as in on a personalization level the brand had need to
And
figure
we
out.
are in a state where I still get WhatsApp messages, 9 crore database, do you want it?
No, I think the thing is there's so many risks with it.
Yeah.
And I think what you spoke about was pseudo-personalization, where people think they're personalizing but actually
Yeah,
they're irritating. So I think what Varun's talking about is contextualizing it, trying to understand circumstances, but depersonalizing it. To answer your question, I'm going to try. The way you try and do it is you test. And a lot, every marketer, agency, more marketers because it comes from them, is when you have a culture of testing, test and learn, now next new or now new next, whatever that is, that's when you start building up best practice because there are mistakes that you make. There are mistakes that are made with data hygiene, managing of data, trust, all of that. But I think if you get into testing, that starts. The other big elephant in the room is attribution, which also is related because if the usual thing about half the money being wasted, not sure which half, and all of that. So I think the tech is now there. And if you look at many marketers, also some people with very low spend, they're non-working marketing spend, whatever it might be with your IT stack and all of that, is really high, but it's like a really nice car sitting in the garage, you're not taking it out for a drive because the road's on there. So I think that, those are, once the attribution is sorted, or at least you come to an understanding between client, agency, suppliers, this is what we're trying to do, that's when personally I've seen better and good results.
So on
We can use I'll put a different perspective to the personalization. Now, for example, on our website, we have COD. Okay, so footwear is a low AOE category. We have a COD category. But once I have a database who has purchased in a COD, the larger challenge is that while receiving his measure of the time is not available. But once we create that cohort and database and we nudge it personalize, hey, if you purchasing again with a COD, why don't you pay upfront? I'll give you something discount. What happens? Actually, reduce your lot of cost in between because of this.
Exactly.
It's lot of in personalization you can use it to save your cost also in many of the ways. So it has to go into the layer down, product category, pre, post. Everything will be a different scenarios. If you do not use the data, like look at the Martech tools, there are ways of doing a personalization into that also. Measure of the times, you can actually that someone is actually about to added the product into the cart and he's missed it, maybe he got an emergency call or something, and then you nudge him in a very small way, he comes back and really purchase. I'll give you one example. In my previous organization, we used to sell the larger AOV products which are like 23,000, 24,000 kind of a thing, and we had a warranty of 6 years, 7 years, 5 years. Exactly before that warranty, 1 year we prior used to nudge him that you have been our loyal customers, why don't you come back and we'll give you this something. Those guys really used to come back. Our CAC used to reduce substantially. Means if I give you in numbers, actually the EBITDA turned down from went up from single digit to double digit because the repeat customer used to be 8%, 15%, 23%, and it went up to 38%.
That makes a big difference.
Big difference. If
It
need to
multiplies
understand where and how you want to go. Instagram, Netflix are different examples because content is too much to absorb. But in a product level, you can do many things in a very right context. And if you do it, you can understand your customers more. Cohorts are very different today. Every cohort is different. Means we right from a Gen Z, millennial, age group, city wise, everything is a different cohort is there. Means if you start attacking this everyone in the same cohort and same type, I think then
But
it's
at the
not.
same time, if you try and if it gets too multidimensional, then there's no scale.
That's where the programmatic comes into the picture.
I think this control of personalization should also lie with the customer. Uh, what a lot of brands, one of the leading consumer tech brand have started introducing the dark mode. That a customer should also have that control rather than being like an apple which is 0 or 1 that I want you to track or I don't want you to track. But brands as well as certain solutions even on their advertising need to be uh, like very controllable level on user as well. So the customer can define that okay, these are my not to do list, that if I would have gone to these website or if I've like whatever behavior has been from 8 to 9 or whatever time, it should not be tracked and no personalization should happen because it helps me as well. Maybe some other person would be using my phone and I don't want to have a personalization. So what happens in Vegas stays in Vegas for him. So I think that user control a lot of application are started doing, but from an advertising context or from a marketing context, if the user can have that personalization capability or control in his hand, don't show me any person like it like a what you call that a delete history sort of thing. That last 2 hours, last 7 days, my phone was with someone else. I don't want to have a personalization using that. Maybe I was in a different state of mind. That need to be done because that creates a lot of I think dissonance in customer mind. That oh I just checked it because of some research, and now is being like all the multi channels have been hovering me with all this context which doesn't make sense for me. Maybe someone else was using it, but that control need to be with customer so that he feel more safe in this personalization space rather than being considered at risk at all time.
I have
Okay,
another. Oh, sorry.
I'm so sorry. He's been waving me since long that we have overshot the time. So,
30 seconds closing thoughts from everyone.
yeah, and I wanted to sum it up. Okay, can you give us more time? Okay, I can
Half an hour,
just.
30 seconds. 30
No,
seconds.
he's just asked me to sum it up. So, thank you so much. I think everybody has contributed and everybody's viewpoints were very, very valid. I'll just sum it up of few things what we've discussed. One is that personalization should work only on retargeting. Should not be done on the first case. For new brands, it doesn't work sometimes, yeah. And then it doesn't have to be creepy or pushy. Personalization has to be done in a right way. Complementary products have to be right, like what Varun gave the example of, coming out of the gym and then there is absolute barbecue. It has to be right. DMPs have to be more dynamic with the time. Very, very valid point. And I think I really love this, that sell is more and service is less. So we need to pay more attention to servicing, which very few brands are doing. And if brands start doing it, I think half of the battle will be won. And the trust has to be shown when personalization is done. So these were the few key points which we are taking from this conversation. And I think, yeah.
Before we conclude, I just want a quick question to everyone. Today, if you look at the overall AdX perspective, videos is taking a higher chunk. I mean, almost 70-75% of the overall digital budget is on videos. Again, fragmented towards OTTs, YouTube, and multiple platforms. So, as a marketer, what you see as a next, or what you need in this space, and what are the challenges you're facing, specifically to be it connected TV or the YouTube or any other platforms per se, and what you think can solve this?
I didn't get the question.
I mean, in terms of video perspective, right now the platforms are fragmented, right? YouTube versus OTTs. There are platforms are not speaking to each other. There's a reach frequency issue. There's a measurement issue in certain platforms for that matter. Yeah. So, as a marketer, when your larger monies are going towards the video per se, what is that? What you need?
We need
what
that
you
one
want to
tool
solve?
for cross measurement. I think that is
One
the
fit solve.
one source that is required is that cross measurement tool. If we can crack that as an industry, I think there can be big shift.
I think there are quite a few. So, be example like say OOT, even like GroupM has cracked it, and even at Dentsu.
All of them
we
are
have
based.
that,
All
DMC
of them are based on Sainsbury model. None of that works really.
No,
That
so
is
I'm
only
just,
in reality. That's
no,
not the
I'm
truth.
talking about the one which we are using right now at Dentsu.
Yeah,
It's
they are
called
all
as
based on Sainsbury.
at DMC. So
Yeah.
what we have done is like, and we have built it on base of DV360,
Correct,
where
but
all the
they-
OTTs have been combined, and that the same thing can be like an applied on
That
the-
can
I
be
think
done.
The problem is, sorry to interrupt, you.
Yeah.
The problem is that you cannot look at your performance on the OTTs and point to the reach and frequency curve. say
No,
you
so
add X,
I
this
am
is-
trying to build that case only. So we have done it like, and I'm talking about the last month as recent as last month campaign. This for one of our campaign. The same problem statement was there. We had to build like the frequency at like a creative level across. So we have used that OTT stacks. The only problem is that like we're not there completely yet. I agree. Say example Hotstar. So they don't give out the device ID.
Yeah,
Be it
they don't
DV or
share
MIQ
data.
anywhere. So you'll not be able to do that. So leaving that aside, like we had to like use the proxy to like build that, and as small tools like
See,
DCM. So
proxy
that will-
tools everyone has built.
No,
Even
so
we
I'm
at
talking about
Airtel
ad
has built
servers,
that.
like-
But I'm talking about as an industry, I think that's a problem to solve.
So I think we move, the thing is,
Yeah.
so that's the first problem.
Yeah.
Cross measurement, if we get, then it makes
Yeah.
it much easier. You've got a version,
Yeah, she has got another.
your clients have to buy,
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
accept it, but at least it's better than it was 2 years ago.
Yes.
So that's the,
correct.
anything else?
Yeah,
I think
I have
more-
one.
Sure, go ahead.
So the key question is, what's the right reach and frequency? Digital. So today's consumer, Indian consumer, believe me not, gets exposed to over 1,000 ads in a day. Video, banners, this, that, everything put together. Now we all go with the hafte mein 2-3. Is that enough? The variables are the big screen, the small screen.
Frequency, and but I think the biggest problem is one is that itself is an issue. But I think my biggest concern with everything going digital is that it's an impression count which is happening. So I might reach out to an audience 3 times, 4 times, or 5 times, but it's just a scroll which is
3 seconds.
even if it's a scroll, that impression count has already happened, and technically I've reached to the audience,
That's why the
but
reach
I
frequency-
actually not reached.
Yeah.
Versus the appointment viewing days when TV was there, I know that it's being played out. The person has for sure consumed it and knows about it. Now I feel a lot of data that I get is just it's just a dummy data. In fact, it just shows at a very system level that okay, this is the amount of frequency which has happened and this is the reach which has happened. The effective frequency and the effective reach, I think the only to some extent is YouTube, I would still say, because it has a view through rate.
Yeah.
I can get some understanding, but otherwise I think it's a very very dummy data, and you just hope that कि अच्छा इतने scale पे ये campaign करा है तो उसका इतना percentage तो perhaps would have resulted into something for sure.
So on that,
So it's more of a hope cast rather than a data driven forecast.
so the thing is actually, if we take the second point, combining what the two of you have said, is that attribution is better attribution if you get there. We're not saying we're going to get there next quarter, next year, but if you have better measurement, more accurate or some form of attribution that allows you to work out whether something's working or not, you can then test, your frequency caps and all of that. That might make a difference. So we've got two things that people are looking for as brightest minds.
Yeah, but just to be in devil's advocate on that point, like for example, TV, when you're running an ad, linear TV, which is at the old school, there are a lot of people change the channel. So how do you, isn't the same thing like you run an impression but you're still counting, and on the other hand the ad is running on a linear TV but they change the
But
channel.
whoever has seen it has seen it.
Yeah,
Unless they want to get a
that,
cup of tea.
so similar manner, so in impression then you need to look at viewable impression, not just
Yeah.
delivery impressions in
Yes,
that case.
yes.
See, I disagree. And this is something which I've been saying for the last 7 years.
With me or with
Viewability.
With who?
During my audit days. So I used to do audit for a long time. Viewability is defined as half the pixel being seen for 2 seconds.
Yeah.
Be it video, be it static.
Oh, I didn't know that actually.
Oh yeah, that is.
This is a reason.
That is
Now, viewable impression is also this, as you say, it's a Possible.
Exactly. It's like
Exactly.
But that chance you'll have to take. Even in TV, might be TV is just playing in the room. Nobody is even watching it. At least in scrolling, you are doing it with your hands.
No, so
No,
that,
no.
that's
But-
why as a
mindless.
marketer, when you have a budget to allocate, then you allocate budget to more consumable ad format. That could be an influencer, that could be an in placement, that could be anything else which is in the journey of the consumer versus putting out just on the Google and the Meta of the
That's the
world.
So
reason why I keep asking for in-stream ads.
Yes.
Sorry.
In-stream ads.
Exactly,
Yes.
or an in-stream ad,
Yes.
or
Yes.
unskippable.
Yes.
Stream ads.
Definitely.
So, as a policy at Airtel, we only do in-stream advertising,
yeah.
right?
Better
And
right
not
to it.
I
focus
think
on
why
as much non-skip.
Hotstar is so hot favorite among all the marketers is because it's an in-stream ad.
Right.
It's
See,
an unskippable.
So
Okay.
the third point is impact.
Unskippable.
Cross me measurement, attribution, impact.
Okay, just before we crossing, just one thing as a counter thing which you mentioned about linear TV. There's a technology called automatic content recognition, ACR. I don't know how many of you are familiar with it, ACR.
Zapper does
Yes,
it.
yes.
Zapper does it, I guess.
Yeah,
Zapper used
no,
to do
Zapper
it.
used to do a
Do
fingerprinting
earlier.
technology. ACR is technically, identifying it is like OEM level integration. So if you're running
Audio.
Samsung or Sony or LG, the device actually send a post back of the screenshot of the screen what you're viewing, and based on that, it identifies it's technically like the digital version of the bark, because bark is doing it in a sample size model. Here, it is deterministic data which is coming from a individual device at a household. That technically allows to identify what is the consumption pattern of user towards the different content, and based on that you're able to do a custom, like you can do a reach and frequency on the ads, you can do a customization of based on the content consumption, so on and so forth. Would that help to solve, because the way the projection is or forecasting is, the linear TV budget is moving towards the connected or digital in next 2 years.
But don't you think fingerprinting is a much better methodology?
No, fingerprinting is between two devices. So what
I
it does
agree.
is,
So
you need to have a
it
phone.
covers phone.
Yeah, you need to have. So there are multiple
However,
caveats to it.
Reach of fingerprinting is far higher. Reason being,
You need to have that app on your phone as well.
So
if you
I'll
don't
give
have
you a
that
difference
because
between
it's,
both.
it's sampling only. But that sampling.
So here it's not sampling. That's
It's
something. Here it's the deterministic data we're talking about at OEM level.
Correct, but if you look at a fingerprinting methodology we have been using for the last 10 years, as in my first organization, what fingerprint helps me is cross-media measurement as well. So even if I'm listening it on a radio, it will give me that feedback. And also, I think the ACR which you are saying on OEM TVs would be limited to few boxes, and would be limited to maybe a particular segment of customer. So, as in, I wanted to understand, because I've been using Zapper for donkey years, and I personally felt that it's the best way. But,
It's majorly based on sample,
Yeah,
right?
so
And
I'll
you
do-
take
so
the OEM samples,
just-
how many audience are there, and you ask them for
Correct,
sample,
correct,
measure
correct.
it. Like that gives you the answer.
So couple of things on the fingerprint technology. One, it is very device limited. So iOS is not included. It is only on Android, because you need to have. So first thing, you need to have the SDK with the partner applications, and you need to have that particular app in your phone, or any of the app which has that SDK. Second, you need to give the permission for voice and tracking, always tracking perspective. You need to have your device at a certain frequency from your TV or your other devices to track all that. Okay. So based on that is fingerprinting is what works. So that also always had a limitation in terms of, again, it's a probabilistic approach, because it's not like
This
completely.
is only for people who have opted in for sampling, or this is
No,
like
it is not.
in
So
general?
Android SDKs are open. It's an open.
ACs or ACR?
I'm just
So the fingerprinting
conceptually I'm saying.
is both ways. It's not opted. It's not a control on the user level. It's a control at the
So
device.
it's not a people meter equivalent.
No. ACR is technically a tech which is integrated at OEM level, which is like, for example, Samsung, Sony, Philips, or TCL, all these OEM level. They identify the consumption, because any screen which is internet connected. So it's not trackable for a user who is viewing on a television which is only linear, which is not connected to internet. But ACR also tracks linear TV consumption when your device is connected to Wi-Fi or a LAN.
Full
Okay.
disclosure.
It's full.
This is very big in the US, ACR,
Yeah.
India being second. But full disclosure, MiQ is most likely launching this product in India sometime next year. That's the.
So that's why I was checking
That's
that
why-
what is your view, whether it's going to solve.
Leave
And
your
I'm
number in your card and once we're ready with the product, you can discuss it.
And basically,
Look, certainly, I think it will
based on
gonna
the
help a
numbers,
lot.
What is the number you can
Yeah, I think certainly it will gonna help a lot if it something like that which
So
is
it's
there.
basically recognizing the content, the logos, and then seeing whether people have seen it or not. Correct?
Yeah.
That'll be interesting.
That's interesting. I
And
mean,
also there can be different use cases. You can target people who are, watching a lot of drama content or, fictional content. You can put them into certain cohorts and you can retarget them.
So even, no, not just that. We can also look at based on the ad. Like for example, how many ads have the user have seen the particular ad, and at a deterministic level, not at a broader level. So then he or she particular device have delivered only for Airtel ad or fiber ad only 4 times. The frequency was supposed to be 6. We can deliver the balance 6 based on that kind of thing. So that is how what it's going to solve at a larger scale of things.
Sure.
Anyway, we'll share that more details on that perspective. And anything else from anyone?
I hope all
Okay,
your
thank
questions
you.
are answered. Yes. Thank you so much. That was a very incredible, fun, knowledgeable session. Let's go big round of applause for all the speakers and of course MIQ.